What's up, everyone? I'm Cynthia Conte, and welcome to the Canelo versus Charlo Virtual Influencer Roundtable. We've got a big fight on our hands here in Viva Las Vegas. It's undisputed versus undisputed. Undisputed super middleweight king, Saul Canelo Alvarez, takes on another undisputed super welterweight king, Jermell Charlo. It all goes down right here in Viva Las Vegas, September 30th, T-Mobile Arena, and also Showtime pay-per-view. Tickets are available through AXS.com for this Canelo Promotions presentation of a premier boxing champions event, promoted by Canelo Promotions and TGB Promotions. Showtime pay-per-view telecast begins 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. You do not want to miss this because it is undisputed versus undisputed. This is a defining legacy, actually it's a historically defining legacy fight. And I have some guys and a lady who are well-versed in the boxing space, and we're going to debate, we're going to find out who might win this, why is this fight so intriguing, and why does this fight need to happen? So let's just get to it, guys. He's a highly respected reporter from Univision Deportes network. Welcome to the show, Iñaky Arzate.
Hi, Cynthia. Thank you so much for having us as Univision to the end, one of the broadcasters in Mexico of this fight. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. You know, we're going to be talking all Canelo because I know you've interviewed him many times. All right.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. And now next up, welcome to the show. He is a man who loves a good cigar, a stiff drink, loves to talk some music and some boxing. He's the host of his own show, Cigar Talk, and vice president of urban strategy at Sony Orchard Music. Welcome to the show, Naji Grampusl.
Hey, thank you for having me, Cynthia. I am super excited for this fight. What a week. I have my outfit picked out already. Like, I'm ready to go this week. I'm excited.
Oh, I bet you are. You got that fit because I know you spoke with Jermell Charlo. We already know he's going to have the Balenciaga fit. I'm excited to see what it's going to look like. Both of their fits are going to look dope. All right. Well, welcome to the show. We're going to talk a lot of boxing. And then next, this man needs no introduction. He is the man. He's the myth. And he's a legend from Barstool Sports, and he's the boxing correspondent and a big cigar lover himself, Mr. Large. Welcome.
I thought you were introducing me when you said, Naji, like nice cigar, the stiff drink. I was like, holy shit, it's going to be on my tombstone. I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to getting into it.
I know, me too. We're going to talk a lot about Canelo because I remember during our conversation, our interview, you got to speak with Canelo on his and hang out with him on his ranch and talked about his horses and how jealous you are of Canelo's horse's mane since you don't have any.
Thanks for bringing that up.
It was a fun fact. All right, and last but not least, she is a colleague of mine. She's a very well-respected reporter and very knowledgeable reporter from Fox Deportes. Welcome to the show, Adriana Noriega.
Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here. You know, Mondays of fight week are the most exciting. You know that come tomorrow, you have the grand arrivals and then press conference weigh-in. It's going to be great. And I can't wait, you guys.
All right. Well, we're going to get started because first and foremost, when this was announced, Canelo versus Charlo, it broke boxing Twitter because all of us thought it was Jermell Charlo, the older brother in the middleweight division. And then come to find out it was Jermell Charlo. Starting with you, Naji, what were your thoughts when you found out it was Jermell and not Jermell?
Man, like the rest of the boxing community, I was confused. Like, whoa, we thought it would be the big brother, right? Like Jermell obviously Mr. Undisputed, but at 154, having to jump up 2 weight classes is a big deal. I think as far as the two brothers are concerned, I actually love this matchup slightly more than Jermell because I feel like Mel to me is the most proven, and he's been in the ring more recently than his brother. So I think this fight, you know, even though he's jumping up 2 weight classes, is definitely a lot more competitive than I've seen a lot of the boxing fans talking about.
Adriana, what are your thoughts on this? Since you've
Honestly,
been speaking with them from Fox.
Yeah, for sure. So we you hear the rumors that Canelo's gonna fight Charlo, and everyone assumes Charlo is Jermell. And I remember seeing Canelo post that he was gonna fight Jermell, and my immediate thought was, oh my God, did he post the wrong twin? Did he, was that a slip up? Like, oh, damn, like, or did his like digital person mess up? That was my initial thought, because I really did not expect for Canelo to fight Jermell. It at that point, it didn't make sense to me for someone from 54 to go to 68. So that was my initial thing. I thought it was a mistake, honestly. But once time progressed, I learned to it grew on me and I like it. But initially, no, I thought it was a mistake.
How about you, Large? Were you expecting this announcement for Canelo?
No, I'm kind of with Adriana in the typo crowd, where I thought somebody had fucked up on their end. I was disappointed too. Like when it first was announced, I was like, this isn't the fight that I wanted to see. And then when the narrative had switched to, has Canelo lost it? Right? Like, now they've set it up to where, can Mel jump the 2 weight divisions is almost less of a narrative than is Canelo the Canelo of old. And then it's made this fight extremely intriguing. And then it brings it together where, Jermell Charlo is 6 feet tall, right? And we're talking, 14 pounds or whatever is not that big of a deal, I guess, in the long run. So it's become more intriguing since the announcement. But when the announcement first happened, I was like, oh, fuck. I really wasn't looking forward to it. And now I can kind of see a path from a Canelo fan standpoint. If Maul, and by the way, I'm hoping that Maul is able to get all of his personal stuff together. It'd be wonderful to see him back in the ring, obviously. But to see like a Mel, Maul, Benavidez, that path for Canelo Alvarez, now it's all of a sudden the stuff that dreams are made of. So I'm much more excited for the fight now, during fight week than I was when it was first announced.
How about you, Iñaky?
Well, we were very surprised in Mexico because, first of all, we know about that he was going to have a contract with Al Haymon, with Premier Boxing Champions. And the first thing we were talking about was maybe David Benavidez is the next. But when we saw the Twitter, when we saw all of Canelo making the fight against Jermell Charlo, it was very surprised. And well, we were just preparing for this September 16, obviously, and then it's going to be September 30. But it was very surprised and almost the same sensations like Adriana in Mexico. We were, come on, Canelo is going to fight Jermell Charlo. Well, let's see what is going to happen.
Well, Large, you touched upon it because that's one of the other topics we're talking about. Jermell Charlo, for boxing fans, they're like, oh God, it's the younger brother. He's the smaller brother, but he walks. He's a big 154. He doesn't walk at 154. He's a naturally big dude. With him going up in weight, will his carry power through? Canelo, they say he's on the decline. We saw it in his last 3 fights with Ryder, Gennady, and Bivol. But he's now 100%. His hand is 100%. He moved his camp. Canelo moved his camp to Lake Tahoe in high altitude. It's a very different Canelo that we're seeing. Is this going to be the fight that people are expecting? Are they going to see something, 2 brawlers going at it, or boxers? Or because Canelo is a guy that he doesn't really move. Jermell moves. He has feet. He has ring IQ. He has power. He has speed. Canelo is very defensive. How does this fight play out with all of these different factors coming in? Large, let's talk about it first, since you brought it up.
Yeah, so like I said, the weight is not that big of a deal. 14 pounds, whatever, is not that big of a deal. And I'm talking as a big man myself. I could lose 14 pounds, on a juice diet over a weekend. But I think the fact that, and the size isn't that big of a deal, right? Because when Mel was on the All Access show, he's like, he's not that big. He's like, I was expecting a Mexican monster, sort of, and he's not that big. And he's 100% right. Canelo is not that big of a guy. He's 5'8", in the booklet, but I don't think he's 5'8" in real life. So I think a lot of that gets nullified, except for the fact that Charlo has never fought somebody who was comfortable at 168. And that's the whole gist of it for me. Like the way he was able to sort of push off Castaño and create some range and knock him the fuck out. I totally get that. He's not going to be able to do that with a guy like Canelo, who's more comfortable with the weight, more powerful at the weight than Castaño ever could be. So yeah, it's intriguing, but I think so the weight thing seems to be what people expect. Canelo is obviously going to be much more comfortable at 168 than Charlo is. So the only X factor for me is whether or not Canelo, who's been fighting since he, left the womb, is finally on the decline in boxing. And, like the John Ryder fight, he broke his nose, knocked him down, and John Ryder's a coffin nail. You can beat on that guy all goddamn day. And the same thing with Gennady. Like, Gennady's not the type of guy who gets knocked down, much less knocked out. So I'm giving Canelo the benefit of the doubt. And he specifically had said, to your point, that the hand is 100%, which takes away all excuses. There's no excuses for Canelo here. So I think 100% Canelo, and if he's not in his decline, this might be one of the earlier nights for boxing fans.
How about you, Iñaky?
Well, first, I'm almost the same like Large, because we need to know about Canelo is now living a new chapter of his life. Now returning to the mountains, returning to training camp in the mountains almost 7-8 years ago. He didn't make that. So, well, I think Canelo, it's going to be a little bit more tougher. We have the opportunity to see a sparring session with Canelo. And I think he's going to be a little bit more with speed, with more punch. Now he's very well of his hand, the injury that has in his hand. And well, I think the most important topic of Jermell Charlo is going to be the speed. Yeah, the speed is going to be, we don't know if he's going to have the same speed at 168. So it's going to be a very good match.
How about you, Naji?
I think this fight is really interesting, right? Like Canelo, to me, he's what we call a young OG, right? He's only 33 years old, but the guy's been fighting since about 2005 with over 60 fights. And, that starts to take a toll on you, just, repeated training camps and on your body. Not to mention, when I looked at the Forbes list last year, the guy made $110 million. So it's just, again, how hard is he going to work in this fight? We've seen in what I would call just a little bit of slippage, slightly. And again, Canelo is my guy. I truly love Canelo. But Canelo of yesteryear, to me, would have put out John Ryder. But what makes this fight really interesting is Jermell Charlo. We don't know which Charlo we're going to get, right? Like, we've seen two Charlos, that being Tony Harrison 1 and Tony Harrison 2. We've seen Charlo and Brian Castano 1 and Brian Castano 2. And each time he's rematched, he comes back with this vigor that is something unstoppable. We've seen Canelo just in the past. It seems like his Achilles heel are guys that can really jab from long range and move their feet, some lateral movement. He's had some trouble just in the past against guys like Islerndi Lara, obviously TBE, Floyd Mayweather, and most recently Dimitri Bivol. So it kind of just depends on what Jermell we're going to get, right? Is Jermell going to come in and do what he did against Castano 2, long jabs, using his range, moving his feet? I think this fight is truly interesting if Jermell can really focus in and focus on his long range.
And Adriana, what are your thoughts on this with Canelo saying he's 100%? Do you think he'll be able to take the speed of Jermell Charlo?
I think that Canelo obviously assuring us that his hand is 100%. But I mean, I think if I remember correctly, last camp he said he was good and ready. Best camp, it's always the best camp I've ever had so far. But let's say it gave him time to heal, to allow the hand to heal. But I think the main thing is Jermell going up to 68. I truly think that it'll affect his speed. I don't remember ever hearing a fighter that goes up a division or two and says, "Oh yeah, I was just as fast." Like, it always affects them. Canelo, when he went up to 175, he said himself that he felt slower. Maybe the power can kind of carry through, but you're slower. And if you're used to fighting certain way, that fact that it's slowing you down, it affects. And especially if you're going up against Canelo, someone who has been arguably number one pound for pound. And I think that Canelo, as we've seen him fight against Gennady, against Ryder, fighters who have never hit the canvas. Charlo has never hit the canvas. He wasn't able to knock them out. He beat them, but he wasn't able to knock them out. I think with Charlo, we're going to see something similar where, he can take a punch. He's never been dropped, and I don't think Canelo will be able to drop him as well.
Going back to that, I was just going to ask about the chins, because now since Canelo, obviously we've seen his chin against Gennady, both granite chins. Jermell Charlo's, from what I've seen and known, I don't think he's ever been hit with the caliber of Canelo's power in that right hand, especially if that right hand or left hand are in 100% shape. Will Jermell be able to take a hit on the chin? And will Jermell be able to try to drop Canelo? Oh, I'm like, I should ask. I'm like, everyone's staring at me. Naji, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. Listen, he better be able to take it because it's coming. Whether you like it or not, Canelo is going to throw one of those ones at you, and we're going to see, and you will be tested. Your chin will be tested. But again, to me, a lot of this comes down to stamina as well. I think Jermell Charlo moving up from 54 to 68, is he going to have the stamina to keep up the volume to really give Canelo some trouble? We've seen Canelo in the past sometimes have some stamina, late in the fights. He might not be as dynamic as he is in the beginning of the fight. But we're going to learn a lot about both guys in this fight. So I hope Mel's been doing some chin-ups. I hope he's been getting that chin right because it will be tested in this fight.
How about you, Large? Do you think Jermell will be able to take Canelo's nasty power?
Yeah, so Canelo has seen everything that Jermell will throw at him before. Like Canelo's been hit by guys who hit harder than Jermell. And Jermell has never been hit as hard as he will be by Canelo Alvarez. Advantage Canelo. And people say now that Charlo has turned into more of a knockout puncher. He's still around 50%, so he's really not a knockout puncher. But in his last, few fights, particularly with Derek James, he's turned into more of a knockout puncher. But that's also because he's become very, very comfortable as a light middle super welter, whatever you want to call it. He's become comfortable at 154, so now he's knocking guys out. He's not comfortable at 168, right? So if you're looking to bet on this thing, I mean, the longest shot in the world, right? It's Canelo to win. Canelo to win probably, I don't know if it's by knockout or decision, then Charlo to win, and then Charlo to win by knockout is barely on the fucking board. So yeah, I don't think he has what it takes to knock Canelo out unless he takes Alvarez into very deep water, and Alvarez just starts to show not his age, right? Because he's 4 months younger than Charlo, right? Canelo is younger than this fucking guy. But, he's obviously been in the ring so much more. He's got so much more ring wear. So perhaps if he can take Canelo into, deep water and still have his stamina, he may be able to leave a mark. But otherwise, in the power game, it's a clear advantage for Canelo Alvarez.
Iñaky, do you think he'll be able to?
Well, Cynthia, I think that Canelo is going to be obviously making some time, making some sense of how it's going to be Jermell Charlo going with the offensive. I remember that the damage that Canelo had on his chin was with Jose Miguel Cotto. Jose Miguel Cotto was the only man that hit Canelo and maybe almost getting on to the canvas. But I don't think that Jermell Charlo has the power in this 168 to damage Saul Canelo Alvarez. Maybe on the short distance with the uppers, with a great right, but I think Canelo maybe is going to be counted with the counters, and the victory, it could be by knockout, but with Canelo. Yeah.
How about you, Adriana?
I like the fact that that Jermell has made it known that ever since he joined Derek James, he's been able to knock out his opponents. I wouldn't really call him a knockout artist, but he has knocked out the opponents that matter the most in his path to undisputed. So if you talk about Rosario, you talk about Brian Castaño, and who am I missing?
Harrison,
yeah. Of course, Tony Harrison. Of course, Tony Harrison. He knocked out the fighters that matter to get him to undisputed. I don't think he's going to be able to knock out Canelo. However, I think that maybe with that extra weight and I think he could hurt Canelo. I think he can make Canelo feel some power, and with Canelo feeling that, Canelo can be a little more extra careful because Charlo is bigger. He has he has a height and the reach advantage, and if you add that power, he feels it. He'll be more extra careful. And because of that, I don't think that Canelo can knock out Charlo either. I don't see either guys knocking each other out.
It's very fun.
I'm sorry, I just forgot to add this one last thing. I had the pleasure of interviewing Jermell Charlo a few weeks ago, and he looked me in my eyes and said, "I'm going for the knockout." Right? Like he said, he's not coming to just box. He is making a point, and he wants to make a statement. And I believed him. When I looked at his eyes, I believed the guy. So I thought that was really interesting that he said he's not only coming to box, but his intent is to actually knock Canelo out.
I think I'll add to that. I talked to Canelo recently, and he you know how in the beginning of this fight it was very calm, very respectful. I was surprised how very chill they were in the press conferences, and then after the All Access came out, Canelo mentioned, you know, hey, he's starting to talk a little shit now, so he got a little fired up. And when I talked to him, you know, I asked him, well, how badly are you trying to hurt? Are you trying to hurt him? Like, what's the mentality? And he's like, I'm trying to make him feel all that skill that he says, or that he's been doubting that I have. Like, I don't want to just show him. He's not going to see my skill. He's going to feel all my skill. So Ooh. I like that it's getting fired up.
I like because when it was announced, I agree with you. Everyone agreed it was too nice. Like everyone's like, I'm so grateful for this fight. I get it, you're grateful, but grateful doesn't sell fights, doesn't sell tickets, doesn't sell pay-per-views. And I know that the animosity, it was more like, remember when Spence Crawford was announced? Even everything was, they were throwing fire at fire. I'm gonna smoke this bud. I'm gonna fry this fish. Like we needed that because they really just. You know, it's not that they didn't like each other. It was really because it was a true fight. And this is undisputed versus undisputed. You can't have two people, oh, you're so nice. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to fight you. No, it's like, I can't wait to knock you the F out. And that's what social media, people were saying, like, it was lacking something. Do you see now, you just mentioned it, Adriana, that he's now fired up, which I love because he says he's going to feel my skill. Have you heard anywhere else, any of you guys, about Jermell saying anything that I want to knock him out cold besides Naji? Anyone else hear that? Large or go ahead, Large.
I sat down with Jermell a couple of weeks ago, so it was closer. It has been this close to fight time, and I think he's picked up some confidence since then. Because when I spoke to him, there wasn't a ton of eye contact, and there wasn't a ton of confidence. He did a little bit of a car wash here at Barstool. He went straight from me up to $1 million worth of game, where he then spoke with Gillian Wallow. And again, he's really been on like the defensive, because that narrative at first was, I hate to keep going back to Adriana's point, we kind of thought it was a typo. So he was sort of working out of that hole. So yeah, so perhaps he's brought in a little bit more confidence. But when I had the twins on a couple of years ago, I mean, I couldn't get a word in edgewise. Lions only, all this. I mean, it smelled like we were at a fucking bullfight. And it wasn't that same energy from him this time, which concerns me. It concerns me. So if that's changed, if it's just one of those things where, you know how it is when you do these media days, these guys go through these car washes where they get asked the same question, 50 times. So it might have been just that, but I wasn't impressed with his energy level. So that's another one of the things against him. At some point, someone's going to have to defend Charlo here, because we're all sort of, lined up on the same side. I'm a Canelo simp, and you know that from.
No, listen, I got to defend Charlo here because, This thing here, listen, when Charlo is approaching this fight, I think most fights, we've seen him talking this shit. He's getting in the guys' heads. And it kind of reminds me of like, if you're playing Madden or 2K and you really want to win, you focus. You ain't really talking. Yeah. And that's kind of what I saw from Charlo this time is, all the other times, like he understands the magnitude of this moment and he's not going to let anything distract him. So I think the fact that he's not talking, it really sort of cements the seriousness in how he's approaching this fight and how he's taking the fight. So for me, that kind of spoke more volumes to me than, him just trying to get in Canelo's head, because Canelo's a veteran. That ain't going to work. He's heard everything.
You think you can't get in Canelo's head? I'm wondering, can you get in Canelo's head? I remember there was a fight not too long ago where he had to do you guys remember this?
Caleb
Plant?
Had
to talk to kidnappers about his stepbrothers. Remember
that?
Oh
yeah.
I think
where he had to sort of get the ransom together during fighting.
Yeah.
You talk about, I mean, that's a diversion, right? Other than somebody saying, "Hey, your mother's a whore." It seems like he's able to fight through the pick on that shit. So maybe Mel is just doing that thing, right? Where it's quiet confidence and he goes in and takes care of business. Maybe.
I mean, yeah, I get it. Jermell is doing what like a Crawford did at the very beginning. He was just all, I deserve this fight. I want to show you my skills. And I know based off all the both all accesses, he's at harmony and at peace with himself. He wants to be with his family. And like he said, he's going to do his talking in the ring. Iñaky, have you spoken with Canelo about, was he looking to do a knockout or just a big win to keep his belts?
Well, in the sparring and in the training camp, we were talking with Canelo, and he obviously tell us about that he in his mind has the knockout, but he's going to work to get the knockout. Obviously, making some punches on the body, but he would like to punch the body first and then the head. But in the last topic, I would like to add about Joan Guzman. Well, I talked with Joan Guzman, ex-former champion, and I know that he's very, very, he's a very important piece of the training camp with Jermell. And he told me, man, if you want to know, Jermell has in his mind, Canelo is going to go to the canvas. Canelo is going to go to the canvas, always in the training camp. And well, sometimes in the houses, I have Canelo, and I want to knock Canelo. But I think Joan Guzman with Jermell Charlo is one of the most important pieces, and maybe mentally it's gonna be the most important thing with Jermell Charlo in this fight.
Yeah, Guzman's been with Charlo from the very beginning, and he even said it that he is his secret weapon, because how would he attack Canelo when he pictures Guzman pictures himself fighting Canelo? He relays that to Charlo. But and then you have Derek James. He's turned Charlo into a more skilled, hungrier fighter that sets up his punches to go for the knockout, like you just said earlier, Naji. So this is going to be interesting of how this will happen. Now, this is actually a very important question, and people might get mad at me, but whatever, people ask it. Specifically, Adriana and Iñaky. So Canelo usually fights September 16th. It is Mexican Independence Day. Unfortunately, we did not have it here in Vegas this past year. We're having it at the end of September on pay-per-view, Showtime pay-per-view. I have to throw that in there. T-Mobile, get your tickets because they're going fast. But his fans, they always come out. Will Canelo fans be here to support him? And does Jermell Charlo have a Mexican fan base, given he lives in Houston? Will he be getting those cheers? Iñaky, go for it.
Thank you, Cynthia. Well, I think there's not going to be like September 16, many fans of Mexico, because obviously we are a little bit economic. We're not like a better economic situation, but maybe he's going to have this. His fan base here in the United States is going to be here in Vegas. I know that many people is coming for this fight. Obviously, it's not the common day, September 30, but I think he's going to have many fans. And obviously, if you cannot be here, you can take the pay-per-view.
Yeah, Adriana.
I was kind of disappointed when he didn't fight on September 16th. I think a lot of people ahead of time make reservations, make their travel itinerary. I was already making plans for September 30th. So it's like, why are you fighting September 30th, But I think that regardless, Canelo is the golden ticket. It's the fight that everyone wants to be in that fight. Everyone wants to fight Canelo. So regardless, there will be a large fan. I expect, especially you start seeing it at the weigh-in, that it'll be outside of T-Mobile. It's going to be packed. It's always a party before and after the weigh-in. It will be packed. I know that he drives the fans, and I do believe that there are a huge amount of Canelo haters.
Exactly.
That are even Mexican, that are
exactly
that are Mexican. I can't tell you.
You brought it up. I didn't. That's what I was gonna say.
It's the truth. It's like, if you're a Mexican boxing fan, it doesn't mean that you are going for Canelo, that you're cheering for Canelo to win. Sometimes like half will be cheering against him. I know so many people that are not happy because they say that his fights are set up a certain way, that he hasn't fought certain names. They have countless excuses, even though they're Mexican, and they don't cheer for Canelo. So there'll be a lot of Mexican Jermell Charlo fans there for sure.
I see Naji's like rolling his lips, like, and what you gotta say?
Yo, you know what? It's crazy just because I am a Canelo fan, right? Like I'm red, white, and green when Canelo fights. You know what I'm saying? But I do think this guy is the cash cow in boxing, right? Whenever he shows up, I think the people are gonna show up for him. I think the resume speaks for itself, and he's done enough to really cement his legacy. I thought another thing that was super interesting about Canelo, and they showed it in the All Access. He's made it a point to speak English so the fans can make sure that they know him. I love this guy. Like the first time I really heard him speak English was against Demetrius Andre trying to crash his press conference, and he was like, "Dude, you just want a payday? Like, get out of here." And I loved Canelo. I was like, "Yo, this guy is the man." So I think there will be a lot of Canelo fans outside of just Mexicans. I'm one of them. And I think the same thing with Charlo. Charlo said he's trying to learn Mexican Spanish and not Dominican Spanish from my man. But I think it's going to be a super interesting demographic when blacks and Mexicans get together and fight. Both fan bases come together and make something special. So everyone who's watching, you need to tune in. It's going to be one of those ones.
Do you guys remember? Sorry, Cynthia, do you guys remember when Canelo fought, especially the first fight when he fought Golovkin, that you had a ton of Mexicans for Golovkin? Like it was a group, Mexicans for Golovkin. So I reiterate that point that Canelo has a lot of love, but he gets a lot of hate, and he talks about it many times. He's like, no matter what I do, people aren't happy. So I think we'll see Mexican fans for Jermell and some African American fans for or just in general fans for Canelo, of course. But I think it will be diverse, of course.
I think it's when it's labeled he's the king of Mexican boxing. A lot of Mexicans get very upset because they believe Chavez is the king of Mexican boxing. But hey, times are different. There's different generations. I think there's room for everyone. Large, do you think you can slightly cheer for Jermell when he's fighting Canelo?
Well, I think I'd like to speak for the Black community and the Mexican community right now. I think that's what they need, is me to be there. No, I do. Like, the thing is I have no animosity for Canelo, even like during the darker days with the tainted sausages and stuff like that. I mean, there were some things that people bring up as a narrative on which to hate him with, and I don't. I've been in the ring with him a couple of times. Unfortunately, I pissed blood that one time, so I felt his power a little bit. I said, "Go half speed." He said, No, half speed will kill you. I said, "Okay, let's pull it back to a quarter then." And he was right. It almost fucking killed me. But yeah, I mean, I could get behind the brothers, the Charlo brothers. I think they're wonderful people to root for. I think the guy is extremely talented, and I think he's very, like, I'm still thinking about the weight. Like Mal comes in below the 154 for most of his fights. Like, this isn't one of those things where it seems like he's doing laxatives right before he steps on the scale. He gets in comfortably below the limit before he fights at super welter, and he probably rehydrates to where he's going to be fighting Canelo Alvarez. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mal steps on the scale again below the 168, right? Below the 168, and then kind of fights comfortably there. And that's a premium, right? Like, Canelo, it's unbelievable that Canelo at 5'8" walks around probably comfortably at 175, 180. So he's sucking down to this and then rehydrating, and that takes a lot on it. So, I'm trying to find reasons. I'm really trying to find reasons to root for Charlo. I do think that, as far as the Mexican haters, I think the majority of them are Mexican lovers. Like, the Mexican crowd is, the more headband, absolutely crazy, drunken fans at the weigh-in. It's absolutely, I love it. It's bananas. They create this great atmosphere to go watch a fight in. And plus, Vegas loves Canelo Alvarez, as does all of boxing. And that's why this thing can't go to the cards, as a close fight. I don't know if we were allowed to say that out loud, but this can't go to the cards because Charlo will be supremely fucked. So he's got to maybe come out early, do a little bit of damage, get that crowd in his favor, and then continue on the momentum. Otherwise, it's a long night.
And off of that, Large, because we're going to take some media questions. We all know Jermell if he can keep Canelo till at least 7-8 rounds. We know Jermell gets stronger throughout the rounds, and Canelo likes to get them out early because he tires throughout the rounds, and so he likes to get him out early. So hopefully, people have said it will go the distance. You know what? I'm going to tell you what the trainer said when I get your predictions later, because yes, you are going to give me your prediction and you're going to set that in stone. But we got to send this over for the media. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and direct the question to the particular guest. And Kenneth, it's all yours.
Thanks so much, Cynthia. Again, just click the raise hand icon and direct your question to the individual panelists that you have the question for. And thank you to our panelists so far. It's been a great, fun conversation. We're going to bring in our first media member, Edward Couch. Edward, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Good.
Yeah. This question is for Adriana. Adriana, I know you've been around Canelo for many years. My question is, do you think we're getting closer to the end of the Canelo era? And like, how many more fights do you think he's gonna have in his career?
Hi, Eduard. Of course, I'm over here. I'm about to talk Spanish because every time I see you, I talk Spanish. I do think that Canelo is getting close to the end of his career. You know, even though he's 33, just like Charlo, I think the mileage is completely different. Canelo has been fighting since so young, and he's been taking a lot of, I guess, punishment. And I think that given that all the fights he's had, the fact that he is financially extremely comfortable, that he's really enjoying golf, and at this point, you know, he's become undisputed. I don't see him becoming undisputed, maybe in a different division. I don't know what other goals he can have. I know that he has these 3 fights, and I really think that maybe that might be it. I think that after these 3 fights with PBC, that might be the end, because I think he's gonna want to just settle down and enjoy his family. I know he said recently that he sees maybe 5 years. I mean, I don't know how much time we're gonna see between those 3 fights with PBC. I don't think it's gonna be 5 years, but I don't know. I really doubt that 5 years from now we're gonna be seeing Canelo. I think once these 3 fights are done, it might be it.
Thank you, Adriana. And I have another one for Iñaky Arzate. Iñaky, I know you know Canelo also a lot. How confident are you that he's 100% recovered on his injuries? And why do you think he went to the mountains this time?
Yeah, Edward, hi, how are you? Well, I think Canelo is 100% recovery of his injuries, the knee, the hand, and he told us about that before the Dimitri Bivol. He has an injury in a rib, so I think now going to the mountain was very important for him to make a little bit different, to get out of the comfort zone, like we said in Spanish. And well, I know that Canelo, it's 100%, and obviously going to the mountain 7-8 years ago, it was a little bit more new experience. Now he needs to, because in Guadalajara it's almost not in the sea level, but he was with all his family. He didn't have the concentration to have the training camp now. But now in Lake Tahoe, I think it was the most important decision of Eddie Reynoso and Saúl Canelo Alvarez, going to the mountain to have a very 100% training camp. And obviously of the injuries, we know that he's very well.
Thank you, guys. Great conversation.
Thanks, Edward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to bring in our next person, Jay Coates. Jay, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, how y'all doing? This is Jay, Hardcore Boxing News. My first question goes to Naji. Naji, I love your platform. And when you were interviewing Jermell, you said you love his meanness. And my question to you is, do you feel, though, that he needs that meanness accomplish what well, not say accomplish, to get the wins? Because it seems like he strives on that, man. It's like he needs that back and forth and things of that nature. Do you feel though that's something that has to be in his DNA for this fight?
Man, yo, Jay, first of all, man, thank you very much. I appreciate you watching and supporting the platform. I think Jermell absolutely needs that meanness. It's so interesting to me because that's one of his greatest strengths, right? But simultaneously one of his weaknesses, right? Like we've seen Mel sometimes because he's so mean, he can get out of pocket and, you know, sort of overextend on certain shots because he's really trying to go for that KO. But I think that that's a really important ingredient to what makes Mel is, you know, just him being mean and him not having respect for his opponent. I think a lot of guys come and, you know, particularly with Canelo, one of the greatest fighters of this era, have respect for him and his boxing skills and his power. And to me, Jermell is going to have to come in there with a lack of respect, but still being smart. And I think that if he's able to utilize his jab from the outside, but keep that meanness, work the body, man, like I said, I think this fight is a lot closer than most people are giving credit for.
Appreciate that. The second question I have is that, you know, we've been following Jermell for a long time. Jermell started out with Ronnie Shields, and when he was with Ronnie Shields, he was definitely more of a boxer. Now he's with Derek James, and he's more of a boxer puncher. My question, and this can go out to the panel, which style you all feel though is going to be needed to beat Canelo? Will it be the when he was with Ronnie Shields, or will it be the style that he has now with Derek James, or will it be maybe of a hybrid of both? And that's throwing it out to the panel. And why?
Well, I mean, I'll jump in again just because I think it's a dope question. To me, I think with Canelo, it has to be a hybrid, right? Like the guy's such a counterpuncher that you can't lose your smarts and your boxing ability. But at the same time, if you don't get his respect early, it's over. We've seen Canelo walk people down because he does not respect your punching power and he does not respect your skills. And if Charlo gets into that place where Canelo stops respecting him, I think it changes the entire fight. So for me, I love the Derek James approach that I want to see him try to land something big early, just so Canelo has that in his mind that I can't just come in here and do anything that I want to do.
Iñaky? You're on.
Well, I think, yeah. Well, I think he's going to be half and a half, yeah, like Naji said, because Canelo needs to know how is going to be the power of Jermell Charlo, but Jermell Charlo needs to know how is going to be the plan of Canelo in the ring. So I think it's going to be half and a half, and I would like to see Jermell Charlo as a boxer. I would like to see Jermell Charlo because in the last fights, I saw Jermell Charlo puncher, but I would like to see a boxer like with Ronnie Shields.
Adriana?
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to see more of a boxer in Jermell. I think Naji, to your point about Jermell coming in and having no respect, and we'll see what we see in the ring. But so far, I feel that Jermell is way too respectful towards Canelo. I see he's very, very respectful. He seems very humbled and like grateful. Thank you for the fight. And it's cool, it's nice, but it's like I need to see more of hunger. I need to see more of it. And I hope once fight night comes, or at least fight week, I see more of a hungry lion, because you're gonna have to lose all that respect, throw all that respect out the window to fight Canelo. I don't know. I hope he's been watching that Bivol fight. You know, Bivol is the same height as Jermell Charlo. They're both 6 foot. I think Jermell has even an inch longer on his reach. So if he can kind of, I mean, I know that Jermell Charlo is no Dimitri Bivol, but if he can find some of those things that made Canelo struggle, you know, I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to watch.
Thanks. So, Large? Do we want to get Large?
Large.
Yeah, I'll say the same thing. I think Charlo has a better chance of winning if he frustrates Canelo than if he tries to hurt Canelo. And if he does decide to take a chance to hurt Canelo, Canelo's going to make him pay for it in a way that he's never felt before. So I'm all for trying to establish yourself as, you know, having some degree of power, but that would be a huge mistake, I think. So if he can, to Adriana's point, he's not as powerful as Bivol, but if he can just frustrate the shit out of Canelo to the point where it's almost an embarrassment, that lopsided, and then pray to God that everything these people are saying that he slowed down in the past couple of years has made him even slower. Shit, I don't see enough. You know, like Charlo's only fought once in 20, 21, 22, and now in 23, right? So we don't know where he is either in the past 16 months, right? And, you know, coming back from those injuries, right? I don't know where he is, but he better pray to God that Canelo has lost a step and then use that to frustrate him with his ability to create some range. But even that, I think Canelo's going to fight more Mexican in this fight than he ever has, and he's going to blast through that. I think this thing is going to wind up, you know, Charlo's going to be chased down, and this thing will be fought in a phone booth.
Good stuff. Thanks so much for those questions. Our next question is coming from James Bell. James, you can unmute yourself and speak.
All right, thanks, Ken. My first question is for Iñaky. You were talking about Canelo in his current camp and him being, you know, closer at 100% and how he was doing in sparring. Do you see him being a little bit more active in offense? Because usually in his previous few fights, he was more of like an efficient, you know, try to hit the target and make the most of his punches. But do you see him being more active in this fight against Jermell Charlo?
Yeah, hi, hello, James. Thank you for the question. Yeah, I saw Canelo very active, taking all the ring, moving all the ring with his sparrings, and I think he's gonna be one of the most important topics of Canelo this Saturday in the T-Mobile Arena. It's gonna be obviously taking all the counters because we know he's a very good counter, but I think he has a special thing for all the fans this Saturday. He was very active in the ring, moving. Obviously, taking all the cautions of the sparring, but I think he's going to give us a special topic this Saturday with all this new training camp that has in Lake Tahoe.
Gotcha. And my next question here is for Naji. We brought up, you know, Jermell Charlo's performances in his world title fights, and in his last one in Brian Carlos Castaño, I felt like that was one of probably his best performance of his professional career. Do you see him being more of like that boxer puncher that he was in a rematch, or probably, you know, sticking to the ropes like he did in that first Castaño match?
No, hey, James, I appreciate the question, brother. I definitely think it's going to be like Castaño too. When I interviewed Charlo, I told him, I said, if you don't fight like Castaño too, this one's over. You know what I mean? Like straight up. So I mean, I think in order for him to win, he has to box at range. He has to move his feet. The worst thing you could do against Canelo is stand, you know, be on the ropes and let him pick you apart. So I think he understands that. And, you know, we actually talked about his mentality between the first fights and the second fights. And he said, you know, I'm really approaching this fight mentally like I do in the rematches. You know, he said it's a lick back. You know, I got to give my lick back. So he's approaching this like this is the lick back. And I absolutely think he will. And if he doesn't, it'll be a mistake that he will pay for. And I'll tell you that. So I absolutely hope that he's able to use that jab and move his feet because Canelo's no joke.
All right. Thanks to the both of y'all.
Thanks, James.
All right. We're going to move on. And our next question is from Joel Ibar. Joel, just unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My question is for Iñaky. So you said you spoke with Joan Guzman and you think he's the key for Charlo having success. I want to know specifically what do you think he brings to Charlo's game that he's such an important piece. I also want to ask how is we saw Canelo Alvarez give a lot of respect to Joan Guzman at the press conference. And I was at the one in New York. I saw Eddie Reynoso. I have a lot of respect for him, take pictures of him. How is Joan Guzman viewed in Mexico? How is his legacy, his career, his level of fighting? How is he viewed? So those are my two questions for you, Iñaky.
Thank you, Well. Thank you for the question. Well, I think Joan Guzman, as I told, is one of the most important pieces of the training camp with Jermell Charlo because he's giving a little spicy with the training camp. You know, maybe the Latin American spicy that Charlo needs to fight like with this boxer like Saul Canelo Alvarez. Obviously, because maybe he knows about how Eddie Reynoso will know at that moment when Joan Guzman was fighting. But maybe Chepo Reynoso, because in that moment was Chepo Reynoso with Chatito Jauregui. So that's the way that Canelo said in the press conference in New York that he has a very lot of respect with Joan Guzman because he watched his fights a long time ago. But I think Joan Guzman is that piece that Jermell Charlo needs in the training camp. The spicy, obviously the Latin American culture, to know about how to fight against one of the most important, like all my partners said, that obviously Saul Canelo Alvarez is going to be like the Mexican style, obviously looking for the knockout. But I think that is the reason that Joan Guzman is one of the most important.
And how is he viewed in Mexico? How is Joan Guzman viewed? His legacy, his fighting style. How do when his name comes up in boxing conversations? What is brought up about Joan Guzman?
I would like to say that I would like to tell you that about Joan Guzman in Mexico, but well, unfortunately, Mexican fans obviously like the Mexican boxers. They are focused on Mexican boxers, but we know that Joan Guzman was on the Pan American Games, and well, he was one of the most important boxers in the Pan American Games. But I think obviously the very fan boxers know Joan Guzman, and in Mexico now what they know about Joan Guzman is in the training camp of Jermell Charlo, and they are looking. So what is going to be Joan Guzman giving Jermell Charlo and Derrick James and the corner to fight against Canelo? That's unfortunately the people don't know a lot of Joan Guzman, but we would like to try to give all the people in Mexico what is Joan Guzman so important in the training camp with Jermell Charlo.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. We're going to move on, and we've got Ernesto Amador. Ernesto, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for Adriana, and the other one is for Iñaky. First, let me start with Adriana, and if you can if you can answer in English and Spanish as well. Adriana, first of all, nice to see you. Who risks more and why in this fight?
I'm sorry, who what more?
Who risks? ¿Quién arriesga más?
Oh, ¿quién arriesga? Who risks more? I think it's Canelo. Canelo is the one who is risking more in losing, because if he loses, it's like, oh, you lost to someone who's not in your division. You lost to a smaller guy. You're supposed to be one of the top, I'm not gonna say number one pound for pound, but you're the top 5 pound for pound. And for Jermell Charlo, it's you went up, you took that risk. You know what? No matter what, you took a risk and you came up short, but it's all right. It's not your natural weight. You felt slower. You felt this, whatever it is that you felt, that's not your natural weight class. So Canelo is in his natural weight class. He's in his weight class that he feels the most comfortable in. So of course, I do see that Canelo is the one who's risking more by losing to Charlo, versus Charlo losing to Canelo. You say you wanted this in Spanish?
Yeah, sorry for my voice. I'm a little with my throat. Yeah, please, a little in Spanish, please.
Para mí, Canelo es el que arriesga más en tener una derrota contra Charlo, porque Canelo está en su división, está en su peso, que está a gusto, es su reinado, y si pierde Canelo contra Charlo, le van a decir, perdiste contra un boxeador más chico, alguien que no está en su peso, debes de ser uno de los mejores libra por libra, y cómo fue que no pudiste pasar este reto, a comparación a Charlo, que Charlo no está en su peso, está subiendo, tiene esa posibilidad de que no se va a sentir a gusto, que puede que esté más despacio, que no pueda pelear como normalmente lo pelea en la 154. Así que para Charlo, si pierde, va a ser una experiencia donde aprendió, así como le dijeron a Canelo cuando peleó contra Bivol, que ¿sabes qué? No es tu peso, tomaste el reto, no se dio, pero seguimos adelante y sigue campeón. I want to add that if Charlo loses, he's still undisputed, right? He's still undisputed, and it's like when Canelo fought against Bivol, you know, he went up in weight, didn't come with the victory, but it's a learning experience that, all right, maybe you got to kind of stay in your weight class.
Okay, thank you. This question is for Iñaky, the same. I'm going to ask in English and Spanish, please. Iñaky, nice to see you. If Canelo wins, will they recognize him in Mexico? Si Canelo gana, ¿es que lo van a reconocer en México?
Well, I hope so, Ernesto. Nice to see you. Nice to hear you. I hope so, because, you know, we were talking about, the haters. There are a lot of haters in Mexico with Canelo. But the half and a half was in Guadalajara, half was haters, and half was fans in the last fight in Canelo in Guadalajara. So I would like to have the answer that if he wins this Saturday, he's going to have the recognize of all the people in Mexico, because we know that here in the United States, he's very recognized about his boxing career. So I would like to have the answer that it's going to be yes in Mexico, but we need to know how he's going to fight with all this training camp, with all these new chapters in his boxing career. Y ahora en español, Ernesto, pues sí, yo espero que el próximo sábado Canelo pueda resolver de esta manera, que es uno de los boxeadores más reconocidos. Lamentablemente en México, pues tiene la mitad de haters y la mitad de fans. Y fue claro durante su última pelea en Guadalajara, que hasta los mismos haters pagaron para ir a ver a Saúl Canelo Álvarez, esperando que perdiera en su estadio, en su casa, ante un boxeador como fue John Ryder. Finalmente, Canelo ha hecho su carrera y aquí en Estados Unidos es muy reconocido. Me llama mucho la atención cómo la gente, a pesar de todo, aquí su base de fanáticos viene y lo reconoce y hace todo lo posible. La verdad, tú conoces, Ernesto, la gente aquí en Estados Unidos, los latinos, los mexicanos, cómo ponen todo sobre la mesa para venir a una pelea de Canelo y tenerlo, obviamente, como uno de sus referentes en el boxeo.
Okay, thank you. Finally, I believe that WBO is going to take the belt from Charlo soon, the ring belts. So that's the thing. And thanks for your time and a great conversation, by the way. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ernesto. And we're going to take our next question from Ezekiel Ruiz Angiano. Ezekiel, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, you guys. Hello. First of all, hi to everyone. I'm from channel More Boxing No Problem. It's very nice to talking to you guys. My question would be, apart from Inoue versus Fulton, Crawford versus Spence, will there be a new pound for pound based on after this fight? That's my question for everyone.
Large, why don't you go first on this one?
I mean, if Charlo wins, then I think you have an argument that there's a new pound for pound candidate. But if Canelo does, then no, right? This is like, you talk about risk. It's definitely like, this won't kill Charlo's career. It may take some of the hype off of a Charlo Crawford fight if Charlo goes back down and Crawford comes up, or they find some sort of catch weight. But I think he has a lot less to lose, right? That's why maybe he'll take some chances early in the fight, as we were saying. But I don't think this fight does much for Canelo's legacy. I think this fight will be used as a measuring stick on whether or not Canelo still has it. And then what'll cement Canelo's legacy is if he can, at the age of 34 or 35, if this progresses the way we all hope it does, see if he can beat Benavidez at the end of this contract with PBC. Then that'll have people really excited. So yeah, perhaps from Charlo's standpoint, he'll be put into the ranks of the best pound for pound by beating Canelo at super middle, but it wouldn't promote Canelo any more than he already is.
Hey, I just wanted to jump in there on that question. There was a viral interview a few years back by a radio station called The Breakfast Club, and they had a gentleman named Birdman, and he came on, and his main thing that he said was, put some respect on my name. And it kind of went viral and became this thing. And I think that's what needs to happen with Jermell Charlo. I don't think I've ever seen an undisputed guy not make a top 10 pound for pound list. In this fight, you know, this is one of those ones where if Jermell Charlo, if he wins, absolutely. But if he does good, you got to put some respect on this guy's name. I think his resume speaks for itself. I think that, you know, he's an undisputed champion. And if he does happen to beat Canelo, we got to be talking about top 5 pound for pound. And if you're not, you're lost. So, you know, we got to make sure that that's something we're taking into account when we're talking about Jermell Charlo.
Conversely, does it do anything for Canelo, you think, Naji?
No, that's a good point, Large. No, I mean, I think Canelo's body of work is so vast. He's beaten so many champions, so many world champions over the years that I think it's a feather on the cap, but I don't think it's one of those names when it's all said and done that we'll be talking about Charlo. So I agree. I do think this is somewhat of a measuring stick for Canelo, like you said. But again, I think Charlo's been snubbed out of the conversation unfairly. And obviously, if he wins, that changes it. But even if he makes this very competitive as a community, as media, we need to reassess where we're putting Jermell Charlo when we're talking about pound for pound.
I want to jump into on that. I do consider Jermell Charlo in the top 10 pound for pound. I think it's been some time that we've considered him. We've had productions here at Fox Deportes, and we've had Jermell Charlo in the top 10. Obviously, for a while, we had Canelo number 1. Currently, he's somewhere between the top 5 pound for pound. And I believe that if Jermell Charlo beats Canelo, he would definitely jump into the top 5 pound for pound, somewhere in there. It's pound for pound is a complicated conversation. Everyone has a different list, but I definitely would see him. He's in the I see him currently in the top 10, and I would see him in the top 5 if he beats Canelo. And if Canelo wins, I think he kind of just stays kind of around the same spot. I don't really think I agree with you guys. I think he just kind of doesn't do too much for Canelo, but for Jermell for sure, yeah.
Iñaky?
Well, I think if Jermell Charlo wins this Saturday, he's going to be on the road to be one of the most important boxers, pound for pound. But maybe for me, it's now in the moment out of the top 10. Well, we need to know if he wins this Saturday, he's going to be on the road to be one of the most important pound for pound.
All right. Thank you for your question, Ezekiel. And we're going to take a next question from Manny Menendez. Manny, go ahead, ask your question.
Manny, you there?
Manny.
Hey, bring Manny to the front.
Kenneth, are you there?
This question was for me probably too. Fuck.
Did we lose Kenneth? Kenneth? Okay, while we wait, I'll just I wanted to ask you, I was going to ask you about the pound for pound list. Where would they end up? But you guys have all answered it. Adriana said it best. Everyone's pound for pound list is very different. It's one of those conversations that people they get in fights over it. But I agree with all of you. If Jermell Charlo wins, he's top 5. He has to be top 5 because it's a career defining fight for him. But this is going to be, I mean, since you guys influencers, I don't know, but you are media. We saw this is a question I did see on social media, and people are asking the ring walks. Who's going to have a better ring walk? Because Crawford set a very high standard with Eminem being his hype man. That was like seriously a mic drop. Who's going to take the ring walk September 30th? Canelo or Jermell Charlo? Large, go for it.
I think Charlo, listen, Canelo has these gigantic ring walks with these Mexican superheroes. Like every time he brings out these Mexican stars, I've never heard of them before in my life. And they fucking knock it out of the park. And, you know, for Mexican music fans, it's like he gets Elvis every time, but it doesn't resonate with this white kid from Brooklyn. So I think Jermell Charlo is probably going to give me something that I'm probably a little bit more hyped for. And, you know, but Canelo will definitely win. If the battle was just with flamenco dancers, Canelo's going to knock this one out of the park. But I think for relatability with me, it'll probably be Charlo.
How about you, Adriana?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think that you're mentioning the Terrence Crawford intro. When Terrence Crawford walked in, and that performance was over, I already had Terrence Crawford up 1 round. The fight hadn't even started. I think everyone around me was like, all right, well, first round goes to him. Yeah, for sure. I don't know about Canelo and Charlo. Canelo, we are used to seeing him with a lot of, Mexican or Latino superstars. I hope that Jermell wants to kind of set that tone like Crawford and step into the first round already with the round under his belt. So we'll see.
How about you, Naji?
Man, yo, listen, Adriana, I agree with you there. Like, first of all, Charlo is already at a 10-9 as far as the ring walk because he got Balenciaga to do his shorts. That's already like, oh man, this guy's already setting the tone. Depending on who he brings out, it might be 10-8. We got to see. But I feel like the magnitude of this moment, Charlo, he represents Black culture. He represents urban culture. You got to bring out one of these rappers that we can all get hyped to when you coming out, and that's going to make the fans go crazy. So I feel like Charlo is going to take it. I think the fact that he's already got Balenciaga in pocket is a testament to how serious he's taking the entertainment value of just the ring walks and how he looks. So I got to see. And the other thing is, if Bud Crawford, the fisherman, happens to be in attendance, he got to say something in the ring because Terrence Crawford was over there talking to him when he knocked Spence down. So I think this is a moment, and you got to show up, Bud. I don't know how you really show him up when he brought out Eminem, but you got to try.
Iñaky, who can Canelo possibly bring out that's going to top Eminem and all of his other ring walks in his former fights?
Well, Cynthia, we can have a draw here in this decision. Come on. Because it's going to be very important. Well, in Mexico, there are a lot of rumors that maybe it's going to be Peso Pluma. So maybe it's going to be on the ring walk with Saul Canelo Alvarez. But I think it's going to be not like the same like Eminem. Nowadays, Eminem with Terrence Crawford is on the top. And I know like Adriana because, now it's going to be, for me, it's going to be a draw. It's going to be a draw. But like Naji said, it's going to be Balenciaga against Dolce & Gabbana, no? With Saul Canelo Alvarez. Yeah.
And Iñaky, listen, I got to agree with you. If he brings out Peso Pluma, that's 10-9 Canelo. Peso Pluma is a big deal. That's a big deal.
Large. I know you're shaking your head. Who is Peso Pluma? If you just Google him, he's a rapper. He's a Latino rapper. And he was supposed to have a concert in TJ, but the cartel said, do not come because that will be not a good thing for him. So you'll like his music.
Sure. Yeah. I can't wait. I mean, I was on the fence about getting the pay-per-view. I'm all in for Peso Pluma. Yeah, I'm there.
Well, Kenneth is going to be rejoining us, but I do want to ask, during the roundtable a couple days ago, for the trainers, we had Ronnie Shields on there, Bob Santos, Robert Garcia, and Calvin Ford. They gave their insights of this fight. And I'm going to tell you their predictions because I'm going to get your predictions. Ronnie Shields gave Charlo split decision. Bob Santos said more than likely it could be Canelo, but he just believes there's going to be a stoppage. But if he had to pick someone, it would be Canelo. Robert Garcia, Canelo decision. And it will be a very, very close fight. And Calvin Ford definitely said KO stoppage. Large, what is your prediction? First of all, what do you think of those trainers' predictions? And then I'm going to ask you your prediction after.
I think most of those predictions were kind of cowardly.
Okay.
I'm just joking. Don't have them come after me. I think we'll go. I want to believe that Canelo hasn't lost his step. I want to believe that Canelo had some injuries that he's back 100% from. And I want to believe that Jermell Charlo has made a mistake by coming up 2 weight classes. And for the first person that he's going to fight 2 weight classes up above where his comfort level is one generational fighter like Canelo Alvarez. So I'll take Canelo Alvarez. I looked at the over-under today and I saw that it was 10.5 and I was stunned by it. So I will grab the under 10.5 that Canelo does not get paid for overtime and gets his ass out of there before the 10th round. Before the 11th round. So I'll take the under 10.5.
All right, Iñaky, who do you have? Your thoughts about those predictions and your prediction?
Yeah, Cynthia, well, a lot of respect for all these guys because they are legends in boxing. And well, I would like to say that for me, it's going to be a knockout. Knockout under the ninth round. Ninth round. It's gonna be the result for myself.
Canelo or Jermell Charlo?
Canelo. Canelo is going to knock out Jermell Charlo under the ninth round. Yeah.
Okay, Naji.
Man, this is a tough one. I think this is as close to 50-50 as you can get. But I'm gonna go with the opposite. I think, you know, Canelo's, you know, conventional boxing wisdom says Canelo should win this fight by a stoppage, but I'm predicting that Canelo might be just a little bit over the hill, and we might see what that looks like in this fight. Not to mention, there's a plus 500 on a Jermell Charlo decision. You know, I'm a betting man myself, so, you know, I might put a little $200 just to see what we can get back. But you know what? I'm going to predict on this one. I'm going to go with Jermell with a split decision on this one.
All right. And last but not least, Adriana.
I'm going to go with that this fight will end by Canelo winning by decision, but I'm going to take a step further and kind of lay out a plan. I'm going to play matchmaker here. So if PBC is interested, I see Canelo winning by decision. Second fight, he fights, I don't know who, throw whatever fighter. Canelo fights somebody else, but then we have the rematch with Jermell. And I see how Jermell greatly improves in his rematches. As we saw him against Tony Harrison. We saw him against Brian Castaño. So I'll say that Canelo can win this first fight by decision. But if that rematch happens, I think that Jermell can muster up all that knowledge and everything that he learned, that he takes from this first fight, and he can potentially Jermell can beat him at the rematch. So to further complete this, Jermell can complete his rematch trifecta.
Okay. I like that. I mean, we all want to see Canelo versus David Benavidez. I guess maybe Canelo's not going to find Jermell if there's a rematch and Jermell ends up fighting him again. We'll see. But thank you. This was incredible, guys. It was great to talk boxing with you. It was great to get your predictions and all of your thoughts and statements and who we think is going to win. I really do love the predictions you gave. But I do want to thank all of you again. And remember, Saul Canelo Alvarez is putting his undisputed belts on the line, super middleweight titles once again against another undisputed super welterweight king, Jermell Charlo. He is one hungry lion and he's looking to take it all. He's looking to for a career-defining win, and this is for witness greatness between both of them. Remember, tickets are available through AXS.com for Canelo Promotions, presentation of a premier boxing champions event promoted by Canelo Promotions and TGB Promotions. And remember, Showtime pay-per-view telecast begins 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Get your tickets. They are going. If you're able to come to Vegas, come support. If not, get the pay-per-view, because this is going to be one hell of a fight. Iñaky, Large, Adriana, Naji, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for everything. I'm going to see if your predictions are all right. I am Cynthia Conte. See you guys at the fights. Bye, guys.